let's segue to transition. That's
My favorite topic.
because that's, I think, kind of goes along with all of this in my thinking, and I could be really wrong here, but transition, we could also say it's not for the faint-hearted. Because if you go to work for a company and whatever the reason you're not there, then you've got to look somewhere else. And I think transition transcends any age group.
Oh, absolutely.
At this point, it's not just for the older people.
We just brought a young gal into my former company. Her first job out of college. She was there 6 or 9 months. Company was sold. Bye-bye.
Now, how do people like that? Well, do you find that they are more flexible, adaptable than, let's say, someone in their late 30s or 40s that has to be in transition, or 50s, where whatever happens, they've had a job for whatever, and they whatever the reason they leave, they're gone, and now they have got to figure out where they go next.
I think that if and when transition happens to you, to when it happened to me, I really look at it as a good thing, because it gives me pause to take a step back, see where I want to go, see what's out there. Obviously, networks are critically important.
Yes.
Knowing people, connecting with people, engaging with people, mattering
Very
to
much
people.
so. Right.
It matters. And I so value my relationships, my industry colleagues and friends. But I also look at people that don't have that were very, siloed, very focused on their job. They want to be the great employee, and then they don't have that job anymore. And my heart breaks for them because they don't know what to do. They don't have a network to fall back on. So I think transition is much easier to tolerate if you have the positive attitude and then you have a network to back you up.
Right. Because, I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of recruiters.
Sure.
And the one thing they say is, first thing you want to do is network. Before you even go to them, is to really have a network in place, and certainly go to recruiters, and then the passive is online, looking for a job. Because, sometimes people get it online, but the chances are very, very slim.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it depends. There, I think your age really definitely matters. So I think the over 40 crowd are better suited if they do it through their colleagues, because what I've seen a lot of with people over 40 is they get the jobs from people that they worked with previously or that they know.
Okay, that might have an opening in their company, or can give them a referral, a recommendation. Okay.
Where the younger people can do the whole thing online and kind of have that, because they don't have a network yet. And also they're looking at the low-level jobs, which are more prevalent at those areas.
All right.
So.
And, you talk about young kids getting out of school. They have their college network. They have network. It's just limited to what they have, and maybe, alumni of the school or something like that. But I agree. Networking, being out there, having formed, belonging to organizations. We both belong to an organization called Arnie. And certainly for a number of years, we've been involved, and
that's how we met.
That's how we met, and certainly my being with the ICF and other organizations I belong to. It's really important to have that network. It not only having the network, it's also kind of a support group for you when you're going through transition and figuring out, okay, what do I want to do next, as opposed to maybe just taking the next job that comes along. And some people have to do that because they don't have a choice.
But I think your network also makes your life more rich.
Yes,
it rounds it out. You end up, for me personally, I've met a lot of people outside of my core group, outside of, I've had a lot of experience in the mom space, so I've met a lot of people outside the mom space like you, which I would not have met normally. And I think that's just such a valuable thing, and it's also fun.
It is, and it can give perspective.
Sure.
Also, because you might be networking with people who are also in the same situation as you are,
Sure.
and you don't feel so isolated and alone for what you're doing. Recruiters, I think that's a great place to go if you know the right recruiters that are in the industry that you're looking to get into.
But when you're on the street looking, it's harder to get a job than when you're employed.
That's
And I
true.
firmly believe that. One of the things that has happened because of the speed at which the media world is changing is that being out of work is not a stigma anymore.
Right,
Which is a
exactly.
good thing.
Right.
But still, people do tend to employ people that are employed, hire people that are employed versus people that are on the street.
And
I don't
what
know why
do you
that
think?
is.
Oh, I was going to ask if you think you know the logic behind
I
that.
don't know. I don't know. We just did a search at my own company, and we ended up bringing in somebody that was employed. And the 3 finalists, 2 of them were sort of unemployed. So
Interesting, because I think today it's not always your fault that you're let go.
what does that
You
mean?
know,
It's like a divorce. It takes
well,
2.
yeah, that's true. But sometimes companies downsize or they
Absolutely.
eliminate your
Absolutely.
division is different than being let go because of your work quality
Sure,
and
sure.
that you didn't perform
Sure.
the way that you should have.
Sure.
So,
It happens.
but transition is certainly a big thing for coaches. I know I have a lot of clients who are in transition. Even if they're employed, they're in transition, looking for where the next step is for them.
And I think that, we spoke about this a little bit earlier. It's really important as for me as I go through my career, and this was your suggestion, which is so right on, is what is my brand?
Right.
And how
Right.
do
That's-
who, what, why does it matter? What is it? Why does it matter? How do I think about that as I kind of go into the next chapter? I think that's really important.
And most people, if they've worked, the brand has always been the company that they've worked with.
That's their identity.
Right, that's their identity, exactly. I was in advertising sales and I went out and, oh yes, I'm with so-and-so company. So I had a foot in the door. I didn't go out as, oh, I'm Terry Yoffe.
Right.
Terry Yoffe associated with whatever the company was. So now when I left and started my first company, which was a sales rep, I already had an identity. People knew me because of my reputation.
They knew Brand Terry.
Right. And they knew who I was, what I represented in being part of that brand. And I got business because people knew I had integrity and honesty, and that was my brand.
Right.
And when I became a coach, that was a whole different thing because you're making a 180-degree turn.
But you've done a really nice job with that brand as well.
Thank you. It's really about who are you, and for people that are looking to even start their own business.
Sure.
Somebody's going to hire that brand, which is you. That's who they're going to hire. They have to trust you. They have to have you have to have integrity. So yeah, people forget about their own branding of who they are and how they match up to the name of their company. Whatever, if you're going to be on your own, how do the two kind of mirror each other and match each other?
I think at the end of the day, when you think of brand marriage or brand Terry, it's what you have is your reputation.
That's it.
That's it. That's all we walk out with. That's what we walk out with every day.
It's it's all we have, and I've said this for a long time. It's all we have is our reputation in the business world. If you have not a great one, that's who you are.
Sure.
If you have a great one and people respect you and know you've been honest and had integrity and you fulfilled whatever it was and did it with honor, people are going to remember that.
Right.
And that's part of the brand.
And I have seen this recently, somebody that did not have that. And I had heard it from one person way over to the right, and I was talking to another person way over to the left, and I heard the same thing about the same person. And I felt bad that I heard from 2 completely different sources that this person didn't have integrity. And you don't want that as a person. You don't want that. You really want to protect your reputation and live your life in that
That's
in that way.
that's very true. And whoever that person is, or any other peoples like that, will have a hard time today
Because
in
you can't
looking
turn
for
it around.
work. You come with who you are, and there's a lot of emphasis today on soft skills, on the emotional intelligence skills, and who you are and how you relate, and if you're in an interview and how people will see you kind of being part of that culture. You may have the innate skill set, the talent, but if you don't have the rest going with it, that's going to be very hard to sell
Right.
to a company.
Well, I happen to like what you just said about soft skills because I think it's really, really important. When you go to work every day, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you want to be around people that you enjoy working with, that care about you. Obviously, you want to get the work done. Obviously, you need to hit the bottom line. All of that is a given. But life is short, so you really want to be engaging with your clients, your peers, your colleagues in a nice way.
And
Does that sound like a Pollyanna?
no, it's actually not. I have had clients where they've done phenomenally well in their business, and they've been called on the carpet for their behavioral patterns with other people in the
Not
company.
being pleasant.
Not getting along, whatever it was. So that is becoming so much more part of the package that when you go in for an interview, people have the resume, they see your skill set, but they want to know what's attached to that resume, and they see and they watch, and I think in a way what they do is they envision you're being part of that culture, and are you going to fit into it?
It's really important.
So
it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear that companies started to think about that because, as I said, 40, 50 hours a week, you wanna enjoy going to work. You don't want to have those days where you're just miserable.
And then there are some companies that don't care.
Yeah.
And the people that are employed and have bosses that aren't that way are pretty miserable.
So
it's just the way it is. So transition, we have a few minutes left actually.
Okay.
But I love this whole subject on transition and what it means in today's world, because so many people are going through transition in many different ways, and I think people are starting to think about, what am I really passionate about, as we were talking about at dinner? What do I want to do? Everything is moving so fast, as you said.
I also think you have to look at your life in chunks. So when you're just starting out in your career, you may be trying to accomplish, I don't know, getting as many people connected as you possibly can,
True.
or working for a big company, or working for a small company, working for a startup, whatever. I think that when you look at brand Mary Jo, for me, it is, where do I want to be in 2 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years?
Exactly.
And really build out, the next 10 years, the next 15 years of my career very thoughtfully, sort of taking ownership of where I am and where I want to go, versus taking the next job that's right around the corner.
Right. But
So.
yeah, and kids might do that, but as you get older, you kind of think about,
You have to.
where do I want to go next? We are actually running out of time.
Oh, we are? Okay.
This went very quickly,
Good.
so
That's
I
good.
want to say we have a couple of more seconds, but I didn't want us to close before saying thank you so
Thank
much
you. No, I enjoyed
for
it.
being here and for giving us your insights and feedback and whatever else that I
Thanks.
find is very inspirational on what's going on in transition in the business world and the whole digital world.
Yeah, well, the digital world is moving very, very fast, but thank you very much for
You're
having
very
me.
welcome.
It was good to chat for a couple
Same
of minutes.
here.
Enjoyed
Very
it.
nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I
Terry. It was fun.
appreciate it.
It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.